Good evening. So when your colleague asks you to attend a networking event on Thursday, what do you say? Do you say you'd rather be grocery shopping? You'd rather be knitting a sweater? Or would you rather be hiding in just plain sight? So I grew up in a household where I was taught head down, blinders on, as it related to working. And when you get into the workplace, if you do a great job, you're going to get great rewards. But no one told me that networking was part of the unwritten responsibilities in most job descriptions. So what I'm going to share with you this evening in 8 minutes is what I learned about networking in about 8 years. And I'm going to share with you some of the do's and don'ts, as well as how to enhance your network, meaning adding more people to it, as well as how to stay systematically in touch with your network. My story begins about 10 years ago when I was offered an expatriate assignment to go to Johannesburg, South Africa. An expatriate assignment, short expat assignment, is when your company, your current company, asks you to go on an abroad opportunity where you're going to be working for 1 to 3 years on a very specific assignment. When companies such as General Electric give you this assignment, they'll typically tell you that for the next 2 assignments, this is going to be your next couple jobs. Well, where I worked, they didn't give you that heads up. You didn't know where you'd be working when you came back. So I was a little concerned about that. So I asked my HR director, how would I manage that? So she encouraged me to talk to Ian Campbell, who was our executive in charge that reported to our president, who had responsibility for signing off on all of the expat assignments. So in meeting with him, I didn't want to appear to be nervous or concerned, though I really was. I fashioned my conversation with him after a story. So I said, I heard that Jim, when he came back from a European expat assignment after 3 years, he didn't have a job. Not only that, his leadership team that was there when he left, they were gone, and no one seemed to remember that he had been working there for the past 3 years. So, can you help me in terms of what I might do to ensure I'm not Jim? So he gave me 3 suggestions, and the first one was to come back once a quarter while I was gone. My assignment was going to be 1 year, so I came back 4 times. And he said, when you come back, make sure that you have dialogue with your sponsors, of which he volunteered to be one, as well as your mentors. Remind them, number 2, remind them that you're on an expat assignment. And third, but definitely not least, be sure to let us know 6 months in advance that you're going to be coming back to the States. So what did I learn from that? I learned that Jim disappeared for 3 years and didn't network. So in thinking about networking, I thought I define it in 2 ways. The first way, it's an authentic connection. It's connecting with someone in a genuine way and in an authentic way where you are actually sharing information, offering assistance, or even making a meaningful connection, but doing all of this while not expecting something in return. Secondarily, networking is also a 2-way relationship where both parties are deriving something beneficial out of the relationship, which would mean I can't be on the Gisele channel. And what I mean by that is I shouldn't spend a great deal of time talking about myself, asking for what I need, without the other person deriving something from the relationship. So how did I use these principles when I went to South Africa? Before I left, I studied each and every one of my mentors and my sponsors. How did I do that? Read their bios thoroughly. Stalked them on social media quietly. And for people that knew them very well, asked them to tell me things about them, their likes, their dislikes. So from that, I learned that Ian, the person that signed off on all of the expat assignments, him and his wife loved South Africa. This was one of the favorite places for them to visit. In addition to that, Ian was a triathlete. So he used to do run, bike, swim competitions all over the world. So what I would do when I come to meet with him quarterly is I would bring him a South African branded gift that was sports apparel. So either it would be a t-shirt, a hat, a water bottle, something that he could use on his journey in terms of his triathletic abilities. Now that we've kind of talked about what networking is and how it's defined, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what it is not. So the first thing that it is not is it's not collecting as many business cards as you can, where you have no plan to do anything with them, but put them in your desk drawer and have them collect dust. Second of all, it's not meeting as many people as you can at a networking reception or at a party. It is not speed dating. And last but not least, it is not throwing out a lifeline for something that you need an extensive help with. So say you want to get your son or your daughter into Harvard Business School. Well, you probably don't want to ask a stranger, someone you don't know from a can of paint, to actually help you with that. So now that I've talked about what networking is, some of the don'ts, I want to talk about how to get connected. How do we actually add individuals to our network? Consider yourself at a reception, and you walk into the room, and what's typical? Typically, you see groups and pockets of people talking to one another. Why? Usually because they know each other. You walk in there, say you don't know anyone. What do? You find someone like yourself, someone who isn't talking to anyone, and approach them with what I call networking teasers. What brings you here today? Are you from this region of the country? Are you enjoying this lovely weather we're having? Things of that sort that are conversation starters. Next, once you've gotten to know someone in your network, you don't want to be a one-hit wonder. You want to systematically stay in contact. So 4 suggestions that I have for that have worked for me. The first one is consider sending a half-yearly birthday greeting. What I mean by that, if you know someone's birthday is in December, send them a half-yearly birthday card in June. Why? 1, they're not going to be expecting it. 2, that's going to make you look very unique. And 3, you're not going to be in the fray of all of the social media on the day of their birthday, the text messages, the phone calls. You'll be on an island unto yourself and celebrating their birthday with them. Second of all, articles. If you've studied these individuals, you know what's important to them. So for Ian, he's a triathlete. So I would set my Google search to tell me about triathlons around the world. So when I would get one, I would send it to him and say, hey, I hear there's a triathletic competition going on in Japan. Are you going to this one by chance? See you in a couple weeks for coffee. Third, social media. Connect with these individuals in terms of social media that they like to use. Not necessarily that you like to use, but that they prefer. Be sure to follow them and be sure to make comments in regard to their post. Last, but definitely not least, be sure to send handwritten notes. Seems to be a dying breed today. It's rare you get one. So I do this oftentimes on a seasonal basis so that I remember, and I'll do it quarterly. So in terms of the do's, the don'ts, as well as some of the tips I shared with you, these really helped to shape my return from South Africa back to the States. I was actually offered 11 internal job opportunities as a result of these efforts. So I share that with you to say that networking works when you do the work. So my charge to each one of you is to use some of the tips I've shared with you tonight. I've shared my networking story with you. I'd like to hear your networking story. Thank you.